Dr. Dave here, and I wanted to talk to you now about smoking. And most people know that smoking is not the greatest thing for you or for your heart, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of my personal stories with smoking and what I learned about it. So the first time I ever heard anyone talk about smoking was I was a little kid, and my grandmother started haranguing us about, you should not smoke. And she told me a story about my great grandmother and my great grandfather. And my great grandfather in the 1880s asked my great grandmother to marry him, and she said, "I will marry you on one condition," and that was you need to give up that dirty habit, and that was smoking. She did not like the idea of smoking. They hadn't come out with the Surgeon General's report, but she knew it was something she didn't like. So I guess he wanted to marry her, so he quit smoking, and that was part of the family legend. But she grew up a vehement anti-smoking person. She was also anti-alcohol. She was in the WCTU, Women's Christian Temperance Organization, and she was a really nice person. So I listened to Grandma Berglund because she said don't smoke. And one of her arguments was a very curious one, and she said if you smoke it will stunt your growth. And if I had been thinking logically, I would have pointed out, well, Grandma, you never smoked, and you're the shortest person I ever met. She was about 4'8", I think, when she finally passed away. And anyway, but she was nice, so I listened to her. So I didn't smoke until one fine day when I was 22 years old. Right before I started medical school, I took a trip to Poland. And on my way into Poland, then there was a guy in the train who was an American, and he asked me and my friend Bob, "Are you guys smokers?" And we said, "No, we are not." He said, "Well, because if you were, I had to tell you about this one kind of cigarette in Poland. It's called Sport cigarettes." What a name for a cigarette, right? And so we said, "Well, what about Sport?" And he said, "Well, it's just terrible. It's made from hay or something. There's no filters. They're really, really cheap cigarettes, but they're terrible quality. So I was just going to tell you, you should never smoke these Sport cigarettes. They're just the worst thing possible. They just don't ever smoke a Sport." So once he said that, of course we had to try one. And so we bought a pack of Sports, and they were terrible. They were, in fact, we would use them in Poland, and that's the only time I've ever smoked, was we smoked a pack of Sports between Bob and me. We took several years to get through the pack. And they were so bad that when our day was going bad, if we smoked a Sport, we knew it had to get better after that. And some of the homeless people in Poland would come up to us as Americans and say, "Hey, can we borrow a cigarette? Can we have a cigarette?" Well, they thought they were going to get something good and American like a Camel or a Marlboro, but no, all we had were Sport cigarettes. So we were refused, even though we offered a Sport to the homeless people, they didn't take it. So my point is, smoke a Sport, you'll never smoke again. And basically, you want to avoid those things. That's the most important thing that you can do, is to not smoke, and that's going to protect your heart and lower your chance for getting a heart attack or something like that. So go ahead, don't smoke, tell your kids not to smoke, and good luck with all that.